Hey guys, in this video, I am going to share with you the ultimate guide to getting buy-in from your clients. So we call it the Elite Buy-in Framework. First, we decode their deepest drivers. So the emotional drivers, we start with security, status, legacy. What is it that would drive them emotionally? Number two, what is their identity to reinforce into them? And number three, to minimize the risk and minimize fear. So, for example, client says, I want a diversified investment strategy. You say, oh, why is that important to you? Then they say, because I want to reduce risk. Then you say, why does reducing risk matter to you? Client says, because I don't want to repeat what happened to my family during the last financial crisis. So now you've gone to the real driver. So you ask why several times to go to the real issues. And if you can hit the emotional, the identity, and the fear, you got something really going for you. Now, the next one is you align the offer with their identity, which is the positioning. So you frame your solution as something that fits who they already believe they are. So, for example, instead of you should consider this investment, you should consider buying from me, you say something like savvy investors like yourself often look for ways to maximize returns while mitigating downside risk. That's exactly what this approach does. So you've planted the identity of a savvy investor into them. It's an inception technique that I like to teach my clients. Right? So you see themselves as decision makers, not as buyers. So you plant the idea that they have already decided. The third one, you leverage a guided discovery strategy. You make them feel that it's their idea. So instead of pitching to them and telling them to buy, telling them to go with an option, you just ask them questions so that they can conclude for themselves what's best for them. For example, use phrases like, have you ever considered? Or what would it look like if? Or how do you see this playing out in your long term vision? So instead of saying, oh, you should invest in tax efficient assets, you say, oh, given your long term wealth preservation goals, what's your current approach to tax efficiency? So now they are engaging with you already. Number four, you prime them with social status. Human beings are social creatures, so you use social proof strategically, not just testimonials, but aspirational positioning. So you can say something like, oh, many of my clients in similar positions, CEOs, investors, and entrepreneurs, they have already moved towards this approach because it aligns with the long term goals. There you go. You've positioned them with someone of status. And lastly, handle objections with the reframing loop. So whenever there's any objection, first you acknowledge whether it's a valid concern. Number two, you reframe it and you said, oh, a lot of my clients felt the same way initially, and here's what they found. Number three, you give a new insight. Oh, the interesting thing is when you look at this, you'll see that. And then number four, you ask a buy-in question. But does this perspective change how you see this opportunity? So, for example, if they say, "Oh, I'm not sure about that. This is the right time," you can say something like, "Oh, that's a very valid concern. Interestingly, many of my clients felt the same way initially, but what they found is that timing risk is actually lower when you act before a market shift rather than after. Does that change how you view this opportunity?" Number six, use a momentum close. That means you offer a low risk step. So you can say something like, oh, the next best step is to run a strategic review of a portfolio. That way we can identify the opportunities. Would next Tuesday work? So you just give them options so that they don't feel like they're being pushed into a corner. Right? And then point number seven is to seal the buy-in with an identity lock. You reinforce identity again. For example, oh, the smartest investors that I work with will take proactive steps like this to secure their financial future. You're making a strategic decision here. So this locks in their buy-in by aligning their decision with who they believe they are. Again, it's the idea of buy-in mindset. It's not about pitching, it's not about selling, it's about getting buy-in by empathy, by becoming a guide, by getting them to decide for themselves because they are decision makers so that they align with us. And I hope this video benefits. This is part of our Buy-in Academy curriculum. We have a lot more content here. If you take a look at the classroom, you can see it's a lot more content on leads, on public speaking, on sales, on negotiation, on business. And if you're interested, just drop me a DM and I'll send you the details.